History 1. This story happened when I was 16. That night I was lying in bed with my laptop in my hands. I used to do this all the time before going to bed to fall asleep. Then I considered myself an untouchable teenager and could do whatever I wanted, so I decided to go to deep web. The fact is that it's not the first time I've climbed there, or to be more precise 2 weeks in a row. For all the time that I've been climbing there, I haven't seen anything special, so different dicky with left-hand pictures of all sorts of tin. I got bored of it, and that night I decided to search where I had not yet gone. Climbing the deep web, I came across idiotic links like selling nails open quote or close quote Michael Jackson's Breath in a Jar for sale. Quote, I thought to myself that this was more stupid nonsense and not the horror that I wanted to see, so I climbed even further. I saw links like does anyone need a 4-year-old boy? And does someone need a female mannequin? I laughed at the last sentence and climbed even further. Then I began to come across completely different offers. For example, I will sell fresh parts of the human body, or I will sell a real snuff movie. And then I saw a link that read don't follow this link, otherwise. For a while I just sat and stared at the monitor, and guess what I did in the end? That's right, I clicked on the link. When I did that, my laptop got a hell of a glitch. He passed out for a second and then turned back onto the place where that ill-fated link hung. I didn't understand the joke and pressed it again. The same thing happened again. I didn't move in again and clicked on the link for the 3rd time. After that, the screen turned black and a cloud popped up in the center with the message I told you not to follow the link. Close quote, I thought it was just a bot and someone was trying to scare me. I didn't press anything for 5 minutes and waited for something to happen by itself. But nothing ever happened. After sitting for a couple more minutes, I closed the laptop, put it on the bedside table, and went down to the 1st floor to drink. While I was enjoying the cold juice, I could hear my sister walking around her room, which was just right above the kitchen, but usually my sister is already asleep by this time. I ignored it, went up to my room, got into bed and opened my laptop again. Because of the sleep mode, I had to pull the mouse to make the screen light up, and then it all started. The screen seemed to look as usual, but I felt in my gut that something was wrong. Further in the center, a cloud appeared again with the message don't ignore me. I thought it was a bot again, clicked on the cross to exit the chat, but immediately after that the cloud with the message returned. It read, what, are you thirsty, question mark, close quote. At that moment, I was seriously scared because my parents had gone to rest with friends and I was looking after my little sister. I replied in the chat, can you see me? And the person immediately replied, it's not necessary to write. You can talk. I can hear you. I fucked up and involuntarily said out loud, oh my god, exclamation point, close quote. Right after that, the person in the chat replied, God has nothing to do with it. I quickly began to put on sweatpants without taking my eyes off the monitor, and then a picture of my sleeping sister appeared on it. I rushed to her room and saw that she was sleeping peacefully and the window was open. I started waking her up. When she woke up, we were going to get out of the house. We were already running down the corridor to the stairs when we were distracted by a noise behind us. In shock, we turned around and watched in horror as the door to the parents' bedroom slowly creaked open. I shouted, Mom, Dad, question mark, close quote, and at that moment an SMS came to my phone from some foreign number. No, but if you want me to be your dad, I agree. When I looked from the monitor to the hallway, I saw that the door to my parents' room was open and a tall man dressed in all black was standing and smiling at us. Fear gripped me. I had 2 choices. Grab my sister in my arms and rush down the stairs, or stand still like a moron and wait for this bastard to do something to us. And then the stranger said, I told you not to click on the link. As soon as he said that, I grabbed my sister and ran down the stairs like a damn cheater, but the worst thing is that bastard chased us. I was flying down the stairs and heard his heavy footsteps behind me, and then we were incredibly lucky. This freak slipped. While he was climbing, I was able to break the distance a lot, and my sister and I jumped out of the house. Then we knocked on the neighbors across the street. They called the police, and in the meantime I called my parents. When the cops arrived and began searching the house, they didn't find anyone there. I gave my phone and laptop to the cops for obvious reasons. Then worried parents arrived, and while I was giving evidence to the police, my mother received 2 messages on the phone. Your daughter looks delicious, and I asked him not to click on the link. To date, that person has not been found, and I have forever tied up with adventures in the deep web. History 2. This story happened on Valentine's Day. My girlfriend left me then. The situation was aggravated by the fact that she lived across the street from me. In general, drowning in bitterness and arriving in a lousy mood, I decided to climb the deep web. I went to the discussions section and left the post. In it I wrote the address of my ex and made a note, come here if you want to have fun. Close quote. I sat there for a couple of minutes, no one answered me. I walked away from the laptop and decided to pop into the store. When I returned, I went back to the discussions and saw that several answers appeared under my post. I opened a thread with them and fucked up decently. All 27 responses were from the same user who wrote "Are you home?" ? Close quote. Apparently, he thought that's why I live at the address myself. Spitting on his questions, I went to the kitchen to cook dinner. Then a clever idea crept into my head. I decided to prank my ex and ordered a pizza to her address. In the questionnaire, he indicated that the payment will be in cash upon receipt. Let's just say he wanted to make her look like a fool. After about 45 minutes, a car drove up to her house with its headlights off. At that time, it was already late in the evening and it was dark outside, so that car looked at least suspicious. I looked out the window and saw a man in all black get out of the car and walk towards my ex's front door. I thought it was a courier, but he didn't have pizza in his hands. What was happening seemed a little strange to me, but I didn't attach any importance to it and moved away from the window. I didn't want my ex to open the door and see me, because she would definitely have realized that I had played her. The guy rang the bell and my ex opened the door, and then something happened that made my blood boil. The stranger grabbed her by the hair and dragged her to the car. She screamed and fought back, but in vain. I opened the window and yelled at the whole street, "Stop it right now." Then I rushed to the first floor, but I didn't have time. By the time I ran out into the street, the guy got into the car with my ex and hit the gas. Without thinking, I ran out in front of the car, hoping that the bastard would stop, but he hit me. I flew to the side, and pain shot through my body. I lay helplessly and watched as the car picked up speed and in the blink of an eye disappeared from sight with this guy and my ex inside. I lay there until the real pizza delivery guy arrived. He called the police and an ambulance. I didn't tell anyone that I leaked her address. When the police asked me what happened, I lied to them, saying that I was just crossing the street and I was hit, and I didn't remember the car number. Since then, no one has seen my ex, and I'm done with deep web. To be honest, I initially wanted to talk about what happened, but I was afraid that something bad could happen to me. Why? I will answer. After the incident, I spent a week in the hospital, then returned home. My laptop had been dead for a long time by that time. I connected it to the power supply and the screen opened just on my deep web thread. There was one new message, dated that ill-fated day. It read, "Thank you, History 3. A couple of years ago, when I was a high school student, deep web was gaining popularity among young people. By the way, it was purple for me until my friend told me that deep web is cool. You can find all sorts of cool game there. One day I came home from school and I had nothing to do, a classic situation of a typical school blockhead, which was me. In general, I decided to go to the deep web. Clicking on the Tor browser, I called my friend and invited him to my place. After all, he was more experienced in this matter and I asked him, let's say, to advise me. When a friend came, we went up to my room and began to climb the links, delving further and further into the expanses of the deep web. We saw a bunch of transcriptions about the sale of drugs, weapons and other boring stuff. Then suddenly a cloud with a chat appeared on the side of the screen, in which there was a link and an inscription to it. Look what there is. We followed the link. At first, the screen gradually darkened and then a pleasant picture appeared on it in the form of a building. Soon it dawned on us that this was not a picture at all, but a real broadcast on camera. A piece of paper appeared in front of the lens with the inscription, "Do you want to be awesome?" The strange thing is that the person on the other side of the monitor was constantly silent and did not write anything in the chat, but just put a piece of paper. We stared at the screen for a couple of seconds in thought and then answered yes. After that, the camera abruptly started moving towards the building and we recognized it. It was one of the abandoned buildings in our neighborhood. Then the dude shoved a piece of paper with the inscription "LOL" into the lens. We got nervous. After that, the man entered a creepy dark room. The camera stopped in front of a locked door and the lens was pressed closely into it because whoever was carrying this camera was obviously opening the door. When it opened, we fucked up. There was a dog bowl in the center of the dark room. We couldn't see anything else because the camera was constantly pointed at the bowl. Then whoever was holding the camera plopped something soft and shapeless into this bowl. You know, like minced meat, except it looked like sorry shit. Then the camera went up so that we could see the whole room. A man in black came out of the door opposite and dragged a crying girl with a chain tied to her neck. The bastard pushed the girl hard and pinned her head with his foot so that the poor thing turned out to be a face in this stuff. Then a piece of paper appeared in front of the lens. Awesome, right? Then the screen went black. We sat in a daze and refused to believe what we had just seen. As it turned out, the stream did not end, just someone obscured the lens with his hand. Now the camera was taking a view from the corner of my street and a piece of paper appeared in front of the lens, 545 East St. Clair Street. That was my address. Immediately there was a new piece of paper opened the door. We didn't know what the hell was going on and then suddenly there was a knock on the door. I grabbed the phone, my friend and I rushed to the exit in the backyard and the moment I grabbed the handle, there was a banging on the back door. It turned out that someone was standing at the front and back doors at the same time. We were surrounded and we were stuck in our own house. Critical thinking is not my strong suit, so we didn't come up with anything better than to run back to my room, lock myself in and call the cops. When the cops arrived, they didn't find anyone. The only thing they found was a bunch of pieces of paper with my address stuck on the front door. I told the cops about the building where the girl was being held and they found it. The girl was 18 and she had been wanted for 5 weeks. As far as I know, everything ended well with her. A week later we sold the house and moved to another state. Since then, I haven't put a foot in the deep web and dark web.